So welcome to this CommuteCon Mini. We're really excited to have such a big crowd here. We have around, I think, over 220 people were signed up. So I'm expecting that attendee number to keep growing, but it's all really down to this amazing panel that we have here. So I want to kind of move quickly into introducing them, and I'm going to start off with just their names, and then they're going to talk a little bit more about their organizations. But before I do that, I just wanted to say a couple things about Ride Amigos. We're hosting this webinar, and we're really happy to be able to put that together and to have all of you joining us. If you're not familiar with Ride Amigos, we were founded in 2007. We have about 30 full-time employees, and what we do is we build award-winning apps and programs to empower everyone to make smarter commute choices. Last fall, we were recognized by the Association for Commuter Transportation with the first ever Innovation in Technology and TDM Award. And that kind of recognizes our industry-defining regional commute hub product that government agencies and TMAs in 26 states use to manage really amazing, diverse mode shift programs. We also have a professional employer commute hub that large employers are using all over the country, as well as our newest product, Pave Commute, which is a turnkey commute program used by communities and employers of all sizes around the world, from like the city of Seattle and LA World Airports to a small microbrewery in Idaho. And I don't know if they're on, but if they are, how's it going? Privately held and self-funded. We reinvest everything we have back into research and development to improve our products and advance understanding of TDM strategies. We have projects testing different behavioral strategies, intermodal commute optimization, personalized recommendations, new approaches to pooling, and with a phase 2 SBIR grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation, we're currently researching a blockchain-based system for incentivizing and tracking commute modes. And we really think of our customers and our community as partners. We learn a lot of what we know from all of you. And so with that in mind, I'm really excited to be able to call these 3 amazing transportation leaders our partners. So Amelia Mock is the Commute Solutions Coordinator for Kaiser Permanente in Washington. Mandy Basil is the Senior Transportation Program Manager at Genentech for the G-Ride program. And Danielle Glazier is the Senior Program Manager for Global Transportation at LinkedIn. So welcome, ladies. Welcome, everyone attending. I'm going to just, if you don't mind, Amelia, I'm going to ask you to go first and tell us about your program at Kaiser Permanente.
Yeah, happy to. Very excited to be on this call today and be a part of this discussion. So I'm Amelia Mock. I am a part of Kaiser Permanente. I am employed by Jones Lang & LaSalle, better known as JLL, but we work very closely for Kaiser Permanente running their commute program. So that's what I'm here to discuss today, is our work for Kaiser Permanente. And up on the slide, we have a bit of information about our commute program and all the amazing offerings that we have for KP Washington employees. So my team serves about 10,000 KP Washington employees. Those are Kaiser Permanente employees who are based in Washington State, which is where I am. And that covers about 60 facilities. So there's a lot going on, but we love being able to provide subsidized transit cards, both ORCA and the Connect card for Spokane County, as well as subsidized walk-on ferry passes and van pool benefits. It's really great to be able to have all of the amazing offerings that we do. My team works very closely with employees through our Commute Concierge program, being able to walk step by step with them through their commute, helping them find new bus routes to use. Maybe it's a bike trail that they haven't found before. That is something that we love being able to do, is just work directly with a single employee. If they're new to the company, new to the state, and aren't very familiar with how we do things here, we're happy to work with them. And as well, we've been able to win a few awards, which has been amazing. In this past year, we've been recognized the best commuter business for our Tacoma campus, as well as a bicycle-friendly business for our Northgate Medical Center, which is in the Seattle area. So we've been very excited to see the growth that our community has done, both before COVID, during COVID, and now. And kind of our most important thing that we're doing right now is just making sure we're listening to our employees through survey results, the amazing commuting data we're getting from Ride Amigos, and figuring out what specific region needs what help. Is it a new bike lane? Is it helping them get more van pools? That's our big focus right now, is region by region, what can we do to help? And that's kind of us in a nutshell.
Thanks so much, Amelia. The scope and just breadth of these programs are just really amazing. So for the next panelist, I'm going to ask Mandy to talk about G-Ride, and she couldn't fit it all in one slide, but I promise we are going to turn this into a conversation once we get through these. So Mandy, take it away, and please tell me when to skip slides.
You can skip this first one. You already introduced me so well. So, okay. So the reason I couldn't fit it onto one slide is because we have a plethora, and I'm sure my team that's listening into this is laughing at me. It's my favorite word, plethora, but I kid you not, we have a plethora of services available to our workforce. So context here, Genentech is based in South San Francisco. We are in an extremely industrial neighborhood. And, there's not a lot of good bike pathways here, not really great connectivity to public transit. And so at Genentech, we try to make sure that, one, we offer great services for our workforce, which is around 14,000, 13,000 employees on a given day. And then also for the region. So we're also looking out for our neighborhood folks, and we offer some of these services to the public to use. And that just overall helps with our regional congestion. So we have our GenenBus program. It is our private commuter bus service that services as far north as Vacaville, as south as East San Jose. And it is the most popular. It is our prize winner program. A lot of people do utilize it, but that does not mean they do not use these other fabulous things that we have to offer. We offer intra-campus connectivity with on-demand. And then we also offer connectivity to our BART transit hub in Glen Park. Same thing with Millbrae Caltrain. We offer transportation to those, and those are public for anyone to use in the region. We also have our very infamous boats that service two locations, Berkeley and San Leandro. And then we also offer a Oyster Point Ferry connector that connects folks from the Ouida Ferry to campus or locations around Oyster Point. And then, of course, we have our next option as well. If you can go to the next slide. We have a plethora of incentive and reimbursement offerings, and we have a very unique amount of offerings that we do offer for the various options that we do give to folks. So you'll see the big one that usually shocks people is the incentives for our zero emission commutes that we have. So those that walk, jog, or bike from their home to campus actually get $10 each trip, which is very, very fabulous. And I'm sure we'll go into that later. And then carpool, we offer $2 if you're the driver of a trip. And then van pool, this was a fun one that we were playing with in COVID, but after 24 trips, which is 12 round trips, you're eligible to claim $150 if you've done all those as a driver, and then $100 if you are a rider. And then we have all of our public transit options. Basically, you can reimburse all of those fares. So it's a very, very nice option. We don't want people to think the commute is a burden. We want to make it easy. We want to make it fun, just because we know that's the first thing that someone has to do to get to campus. So, and that's it. I promise that was fast.
Thank you. For anyone who's had the chance to commute by boat, in your life. I have to say it really is a really nice start and end to the day, especially on a nice sunny day, crossing the bay. So it's amazing. Thanks, Mandy. So turning it over to Danielle to talk about LinkedIn.
Thanks, Catherine, and hi, everybody. So my name is Danielle Glazier. I am with LinkedIn. We're located in a lot of places across the globe, but I'm going to focus mostly on our Bay Area transportation program today. So we have two locations, one urban in downtown San Francisco and one in a very suburban, old style kind of office park in the South Bay. And we serve about 7,500 employees. What I didn't include on here are the support services, those numbers, because, but I should have, because everybody that comes to our campus, we try to have some sort of solution for, and we do have to solve for, the entire demand that we have coming over. So I'm going to double click a little bit more today also into the work that we do with our suburban campus, which is in Mountain View and Sunnyvale. And really the scope of the work that we're doing is making sure that we're meeting our transportation demand management requirements through specifically the city of Mountain View. We have some trip caps, and we've started doing our reporting on that this year. So it's a new facet of my work and really interesting piece. And we did a commute survey recently with our employees and got to learn some good information from that. We manage all the on-site parking and EV charging infrastructure. And this EV charging infrastructure has become a hot topic for us as of late. And really just parking in general. So one of the other things that we've done is we've installed a license plate recognition technology and been building out a custom solution with Ride Amigos that will connect with all of our commute options and help us manage parking on campus. And we've been doing some really interesting pilots with that. Moving away from parking, though, we have a really cool campus bike program on site and lots of fabulous bike parking. So you can kind of see that in that photo, the left corner, that was our bike to work day in our brand new HQ building. And it was so exciting to see that full. For the programs that we provide our employees, we are trying to really continue to support public transit. It's, had some hard times recently, but we really believe in that. So we provide our employees with a subsidy every month. And then we've tried to solve for that first mile, last mile connection challenge by providing them with rideshare credits so that it's very clear how they can get from their home to the train station to the office, and then from the train station to the office and back again. We also have a loaner bike program that we started about a year ago, which has been going really well and converted over a lot of people to biking, or at least purchasing a bike and making biking more part of their lifestyle. And in San Francisco and Oakland and San Jose, there are some bike share systems. And so we provide some credits for those too, which on our bike to work day in the San Francisco office, we had a lot of people arrive using those bike share credits. We've also been testing an on-demand and pre-scheduled van shuttle service to our main campus, which has been really successful in some ways and not in others. And we've just been learning about hybrid work and, how we can optimize the service. And it's been really fun to play around with this new kind of concept through Ride Amigos' platform, which we call Commute Connection. We've been doing some incentives. And then, of course, we offer some of these other things like EV charging on campus, a guaranteed ride home program, and one-on-one bike consulting.
It's amazing. I love that picture of the bike room because even when it's packed, it still looks like a nice place to put your bike if you bike to work, and that's not always the case.
I wanted that room to be very bright. They gave us the most amazing place with a view to the outside. And I should actually walk you through these other two pictures. So the one with the vans, that's our transit center where the van shuttle service is picking up and dropping off. And then the bottom right-hand corner is our pilot area for our EV swap zone, which I will talk about a little bit more later today.
Awesome. Thank you, Danielle. I'm going to stop the share so we can really see everyone's faces now. What I wanted to start off with, we just looked at how big those programs are, and you can see what your organizations are investing in this. But traditionally, historically, that the commute hasn't been something that employers really took responsibility for. So Danielle, you mentioned trip caps, in one particular area, but aside from that, give us some insight into why your organizations think the commute is so important. Anybody can start with that one, or I can pick on someone.
I guess I can give it a whirl. Okay, so I feel like a little spoiled just because Genentech has supported commuting for so long. It's been here ever since I started, and it has been here for a very, very long time. There's always been something. If I think back to our incentive programs, those started in 2006. So this isn't a new concept for us. It's just something that's been evolved over time, which is fabulous. But it is a very big sustainability push for Genentech. So I think the importance of sustainability is huge for us. So they will always support whatever type of commuting things that we need to do. And the other piece is, and I'm sure this is a big piece for a lot of campuses, is bringing people back. They realize the importance of making it easy, making it not even a thought that they can get to campus and they don't have to, complain about the fact that they didn't have to pay for gas when they were working from home, or, they're missing out on a meeting and early in the morning. We want to take away all those excuses and provide them with a really solid service. And they see the value in that. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at in the commuter space and the importance it kind of plays.
And I can pick it up next. So for Washington State, we have our commute trip reduction program. And so that is kind of the biggest key force that brought it to Kaiser Permanente's attention of, like Mandy said, we've had it for quite some time. We have been doing our commuting program for many years now, and that's just the start of it. So in alignment with that program, the state of Washington mandates that large employers try to minimize single occupancy vehicles. And so our goal here is to just increase employees' awareness of alternative transportation modes. And one of the things that I had left off of my slide accidentally is also our incentive program. We have a very vast incentive program that pretty much any employee that commutes alternatively can get $5 a day, up to $50 a paycheck added directly through Ride Amigos and onto their paycheck. So that is a great thing that we offer, especially coming into our large hubs where employees are able to make that commute just that much easier of having their subsidized Orca card, which is our transit pass, and get that payback onto their paycheck as well. So it's really just providing our employees an assistance, like Mandy said, make it a little bit easier to get into, in our case, the hospital to treat our patients.
Yeah, and I think there's just a lot of reasons why businesses will find ways to invest in programs like this. When LinkedIn started ours, when we were in a really competitive talent market within Silicon Valley, where a lot of the bigger companies were providing best-in-class services, and we wanted to compete for that talent too. So it only made sense to have something like that. But then when we had everybody coming on campus, we also had an infrastructure problem. We didn't have enough parking spaces. So, you have to solve for those real challenges. And at the same time, cities are coming out with different policies, or regions are coming out with policies on how you should be, what the impact your business is going to have in the community. And And so now we've got these trip caps we need to contend with. And at this point, with a program that's been around for so long, now we've created a culture where we're really going to provide a seamless, frictionless way for employees to come into the office. And in the post-pandemic world, it really is, you know, like Mandy was saying, how to get people to say, I will go into the office today, you know, despite the real fact that they might be in traffic for a little bit, or, you know, arrive to work sweaty because they rode a bike or something. So I'd say that it evolves over time. And you know, really whatever is top of mind for your business. I think that it's such a dynamic, important solution for businesses to provide, and what is most useful is to find what speaks to your culture and your company and start getting like a foothold in, and then they'll start to see the value, and you can really build in and grow the program.
That's so true. And I mean, that kind of brings me to the next question I have. And I have to give Danielle a little credit, because the title of this webinar, it all starts with the commute. And we made a t-shirt of that like a few years ago. And, you know, when we thought the pandemic was going to end after only a few months, this is something that we talked about, you know, when for those employees that were remote because of the pandemic, you know, the return really all starts with the commute, and like, what is that going to look like? And it's an addition to some people's days that they really got used to not having. So I think I wanted to turn to Mandy, you know, considering the location that you guys are in and the geographic spread of your workforce, Genentech has actually a really exceptional mode split. And that's something that you guys have been able to maintain, you know, not just achieve, but maintain. So kind of wanted to understand, I think you do that through the subsidies incentive program, you know, just to really get into that, like, how does that investment actually intersect with some of the sustainability initiatives and some of the other business priorities, like some of which I think you guys touched on in that last question.
Yeah, so the incentives in the reimbursement program, and Martel, answer your question live because I accidentally pressed answer live. It is through Red Amigos. But basically through that, we're able to offer really competitive options to your vehicle. And in the pandemic, we did see a radical increase in people wanting to charge their EVs on site. And trust me, the drama is there. So Danielle, we feel you on all the EV dramas. But we had to make it competitive and we had to make it attractive. Luckily, I think, Danielle, you also kind of hinted to this. It's like, it's a culture thing here. When people are onboarded, they're talking about sustainability and Genentech's sustainability goals in particular, and then they're giving you options of alternate ways to get in through our G-Ride program, right? So it's all kind of embedded within the culture of Genentech itself, but also making it really easy to choose the alternative. So if I wanted to take the public ferry every day, you know, my ticket's going to cost me like $14 each way. That gets really pricey. And then what is the competition? Should I just go ahead and take my vehicle, or am I going to take the ferry today? Well, since I'm an employee, I can go ahead and get that reimbursed. Why wouldn't I choose a free commute and an enjoyable one and get to work nice and safely? So we always get support around the incentives and reimbursements, just because we can, one, decrease the amount of vehicles coming on site, which is, of course, parking is a huge thing. But it feeds like this whole like culture of like, yes, we're here, we're doing the right thing. I took the bus in today, I took the ferry in today, and people are kind of proud of it. So I feel like that's what gives us a nice little competitive edge, is we do make it attractive to try something else, even with our free parking.
That's true. That's true. And so the pandemic just, it kind of impacted everybody's relationship to the workplace a little differently. I think, Amelia, obviously you guys had people coming in throughout because that's what they do. You have some essential employees. Genentech, I know you have different people that were doing research, really important research during that time, and maybe needed to be on site. But I know that even when commuting was slowed down, even when there wasn't traffic, all three of you and your organizations really never stopped focusing on how to make the commute better. And in fact, I think there was some opportunity taken to rethink because you knew that you were having sort of a fresh start. For all of you, what assumptions were you making a couple of years ago about what things would look like in 2023, and how have those kind of played out in reality?
I can jump in here. So for us, it was very interesting, our focus throughout the pandemic, because we did have employees coming into our facilities to take care of patients and working on the front lines throughout the pandemic. So our main focus through the past few years has really been on making sure our employees were safe coming in. They felt safe. They were supported in whatever they needed to get to our hospitals. That has been our main focus. And that included providing free parking to our employees and to members, and really just trying to not focus as much on the congestion on our work sites at that time. Now that we are kind of shifting away from that and trying to meet our on-site parking demand for our members, help reduce congestion on the roadways and everything, we're focusing more now on the comfortability of our employees getting back into public transit. And I think that's where one of our assumptions changed, because it's very difficult to think 3 years ago about how comfortable people would be, because every person is going to have a different level of comfortability with getting on a bus versus taking a carpool, following everything that they saw during the pandemic. So that has been our biggest focus, is where can we meet this employee in where they're located right now, and whatever is going to make them more comfortable. Is it that first mile, last mile? Is it focusing more on finding shuttles? Like, what can we add to our program to make sure that we're meeting these employees? And one of the things that we've been very happy to be able to start again is our on-site commute fairs, where we're going on-site to each one of our facilities, meeting the employees, being able to speak directly with them again, hear what their struggles are with their commute, and just taking it all in. And that's really where we are right now, is just like a data gathering mindset of figuring out, great, now where can we go from here? And what can we do to make our employees get that culture of commuting without driving onto the campus?
Yeah. What about you, Danielle? I know parking was a big focus for you guys. It still is, but that's something that you were thinking about going, all the way back to 2020. But it wasn't where you started before COVID, I think. So, what did that evolution look like, and what's actually turned out to be the most important thing right now?
Yeah, I mean, in 2019, when everyone was coming in every day, we had a real parking problem, because we were also developing our campus and building some new offices and taking away parking and putting it into a garage. So that was just a really unique circumstance for us. But the pandemic gave us some time to reevaluate how we were planning out the programming that we were providing. And I felt that a lot of people were going to revert back to driving in their cars because they wouldn't feel comfortable, like Amelia was saying, taking public transit. And a lot of people have moved to different locations. They might live farther away. I myself moved from a place where I could take the train to living in the mountains, where I need to drive. So with all of that in mind and what we knew our trip caps were going to be and our parking constraints and things like that, we really thought, what is going to move the needle the most? Who are the people that drive in the most, and what sort of incentive or program do they need to not drive? And when you're talking about people who live within 5 miles of campus, if you don't have a robust public transit system in a suburban area, they're not going to take the train. If you have a carpool option, but it's going to take you 20 minutes instead of 10 minutes to get to the office, you're probably not going to pick someone else up. And if you don't feel comfortable biking or you don't have a bike, you're probably not going to do that either. And so we doubled down on this on-demand service, where the van picks you up from your office, from your house, takes you to the office. And it's been incredibly popular. Of course, who doesn't want someone to pick you up from your house and take you to work? It's like a bus for adults. But, that one of the biggest hurdles has really been explaining to my leadership, like, this does cost a lot of money, but it also has a lot of value because it's saving the parking spaces for those of us that live in the mountains and have to drive here, or have kids and families and they can't do this, and really helps us meet this super limited supply that we have. So for the most part, that's working. It's just, it's been interesting because I think one of the questions in the Q&A is, what is our return to work model? We're hybrid, but there's no definition around what that means. So there's no like 3 days in the office kind of mandate. But naturally, we're seeing this trend of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, employees are coming in, and it makes it difficult to plan around, and so now we're having to look at, if this is our trend, how do we adjust the service levels so that the spend is more efficient, and maybe the tails, the Monday, Fridays, where we're not seeing as many people in, maybe we're not providing that same level of service we are, and we ramp up in the middle of the week. So it's lots of learning still.
Mandy, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the lessons learned piece, we were operational throughout the pandemic, right? We had a workforce and they can't do science in their garage or anything like that. We'd like them to come to campus for that. So we were offering service throughout the pandemic, and we introduced a whole bunch of new offerings that we've never offered before to kind of better accommodate the number of people in labs at a certain amount of time, and they can only be there in the morning, and then they need to leave like right at noon. So we introduced a whole midday service to our workforce. And it was great. We added more flexibility, but in a way, I almost feel like we created a little bit of a monster because, now that option is available. So sometimes people want to leave early. Sometimes they want to stay later. There's not as much consistency as what we used to have in terms of like robust ridership on the 3 p.m. run only, like now it's kind of like ebbs and flows, which is super different. We never had that problem before. The other thing too, that is a big lesson learned for me, at least, is during the pandemic, we switched our intracampus on-demand system from circulators to on-demand. And that worked great during the pandemic, right? Not everyone was moving around. If people needed to go from A to B, they could put their request in and it was totally fine. But now people are back and people want to move around campus, and we've introduced a barrier of entry to getting around campus because you need an app to go ahead and request a ride. So now we're kind of playing around with this motion or this thought of like, what does the campus now need? We've been back since March. What are our trends? Can we take a look back at those midday routes? And maybe there are some very popular midday routes, but like look at the efficiencies there, understand how we can run our services better, and put resources where it makes sense. And then also look at the like on demand, be like, what do they need now? How can we support the business now that we are back? So that's kind of been the big question now that we actually have concrete data. I feel like we came back to campus like 12 times but this one feels like the last, like a good chunk. So now I feel like we have something concrete.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to see with the on-demand services and the other private transportation that you guys offer or subsidize, how that's like correlating with people actually coming in, and how you can really understand what people need through that. Amelia, you mentioned a survey at some point. I think because your workforce has really diverse schedules, and I think a lot of times probably a little bit more rigid schedules than what the folks at LinkedIn and Genentech are doing. I know you're always listening to your employees and trying to understand what's working, what's not working. What kind of data specifically are you guys looking at to make decisions about what to offer and what policies to change?
Yeah, so that was one of the biggest things we introduced during the pandemic, was a new biannual employee survey. We had a subject matter expert come on and work with our team on what our program may need to make it just that much better. And that was one of the things that they came up with, was a biannual survey where we keep the questions very, very similar for each one of the surveys we do twice a year. And that will allow us to really see how trends are moving throughout time. And as part of that, one of the questions that we always include is what program, what new incentive would push you over the edge to get you to try alternative transportation? Is it a shuttle program? Is it a higher commute incentive, more than the $5 a day? Is it a first mile, last mile? And the really cool thing that I really enjoy from this survey is we get it by facility. So each one of our 60 facilities, we can have specific data per that group that we're getting straight from the user. And through that, we've been able to try these new pilots. We started a first mile, last mile pilot with Lyft at our Tacoma campus. We started a new employee sticker monitoring program for Capitol Hill, which is over in our Seattle location, because we were noticing that employees and non-employees with access were mixing in parking lots. So now we can see exactly who has access where. It's brought us all of this amazing data. And now that we're working with Ride Amigos as well, we get access to so much more actual employee mode breakdowns, because through the commute tracking on our Commute Hub, that is going to be amazing to actually show us, one, should we continue all of these amazing benefits, where we might be lacking, what different program, for example, van pools we lost a lot of our van pools during COVID. And that's one of the things that we're trying to put more marketing and zip code matching, all of that into, and having Ride Amigos is being able to offer us so much more capability to be able to see the use. And that is really one of our biggest data points right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for that. And so we only have 20 minutes left, and I want to make sure there's like 13 unanswered questions I see in the Q&A. So I wanted to there's one more question that I had so I'm going to be selfish and try to get that through. Danielle, you mentioned the EV swap zone, and I think we all know that a lot of people bought EVs during the pandemic. So if you were having EV gridlock before, you're having it even more now. So what is LinkedIn doing to address charging in an efficient way on campus?
Yeah, we just kicked off this really interesting pilot called an EV swap zone. And the biggest pain point that our employees are facing is that by the middle of the day, if they've plugged in their car and they got a full charge, which is typically less than 4 hours is what they need, they can't open that space for another person because there's nowhere to park their car. They can't move their car because at lunchtime it's full. And so what we've done is has taken a section of our EV charging and parking offline and blocked it only for employees that are participating in this pilot program, and essentially guaranteeing them a place to move their car after they've completed their charge. So that we can also turn on, where we have charge point stations, so that we can also turn on the waitlist functionality and make sure that people are actually getting a charge. So our port utilization is very low compared to how many people we think we should be able to charge each day. And again, if you can't move your car, then it doesn't matter if people are getting in line to charge, because they're never going to get a charge. So this is our big hypothesis. This is our big gamble to see if this actually works. And one of the things that we're doing that I think is allowing us to test this out is we've worked with you and Genentech on building out this LPR system where we've created an EV swap zone permit. So only the drivers who are in this pilot will have this permit. And then our mobile security vehicle will patrol throughout the day to confirm that someone is who's parked there should be there, and who, if not, we'll notify them. And we're already seeing, like, week 2, we're seeing fewer cars parked there that shouldn't be there. And so hoping over time this changes. But we're also, going to be able to see real-time demand and utilization of this parking lot. And it's, so far the feedback from the employees is like, I feel like, I am confident I'm not going to be out moving my car around for 15-20 minutes. I can just go move my car and somebody else can charge. And I see a question in the chat about if we've looked at valet parking. Yeah, of course, for EV, we have, but I don't have money for that. It's a very labor intensive solution. And so it puts the onus on the employees. They know with data, there's a limited number of chargers, and there's a lot of people who want access, and we have to share. And so this gives them the confidence that they can share, and makes it a lot easier.
Thanks. And I see a question that's related to that in the chat. I'm just going to ask it because I think you mentioned Genentech, but what LPR system is LinkedIn using?
Yeah, we have Biotech cameras. We have fixed, mobile, fixed at our driveway entrances and at our garage entrances, and then one mobile vehicle.
And they've been great to work with on our side too. Thanks. Okay, well, so we do have a slew of questions in here. The one that Lillian put in at the very beginning when you guys were introducing your programs. I don't know if you'll all know this off the top of your head, but what is the average commute distance? There's probably a pretty wide variance there, because we're talking Seattle and the Bay Area, so people are pretty spread around.
Yeah, I would say, for us, it could be huge. We have employees who commute to Seattle from the outlying islands off of the Sound, so they obviously take advantage of our great ferry pass that we offer, but it could be wide reaching.
Anybody else have any analysis?
Yeah, we just did our commute survey and did a breakdown of distance people live from the office and the services that they use, which has been pretty interesting. I'd say the majority live fewer than 15 miles, 15-20 miles away from campus. And those are the groups that are using the variety of programs that we have. And then when you're getting over to like 20 miles plus, a lot more people are either taking like the regional public transit systems or they're driving alone.
I kind of echo that. So, a little echo. Most of the people live within 15 to 20 miles, right, to the campus. And those are, the closer they get to campus, the harder it is to actually get them out of their vehicle. Very, very difficult. They do not want to leave. But we actually have our strongest ridership and utilization from those that live further out than that. So we even have people that are coming from like 75 miles away, sometimes further, just to come into campus for their required 3 days a week.
Wow. So as you guys were sharing the overview of your programs, I mean, one of the things that I was most excited about was for everyone to hear what you're really investing in incentives, because it's really important, and it's something that a lot of the employers and even the governments that we talk to have a struggle with kind of justifying this stuff. There are two kind of related questions here. The first one is, how did you establish the budget for those incentives? And I think that it's probably incentives and subsidies probably can throw in there. And then the sort of secondary question from someone else right after that was, do you know what percentage of people are engaging in the program? And I think that probably varies depending on your program, but who wants to offer some insight there? And how can other people be like you?
Everyone come give everyone $10. No, so we basically kind of have looked at what we've historically done when we come to proposing this for budget. And the big one came when we switched our biking and walking incentive from $6 to $10. We were looking back during the pandemic, and we realized we hadn't changed that value or that number in years, right? And so we're like, inflation's a thing. How do we make people choose biking? How can we make this even more attractive? And so when we were looking at it, we're like, let's do inflation on it. Let's bump it up to $10 and let's see kind of how that lands. The other piece too is we started a pilot with Van Moof bikes. And what we were doing is we were telling our employees, like, you can do the monthly or pay for a lease on this bike, but if you bike to work every day, you will pay it off and then some. So we wanted to make sure that we could cover the lease of the bike, as well as, give them a little treat for all the exercising that they have to do to come into work. So it's kind of easy sell. And what we did see is it still kind of levels out in terms of participation and our budget that we're asking for. And because we put so many restrictions on how you can get the money, meaning we've enabled Strava, so they must hit the geofence in order to get their moolah. No one really abuses it. It's hard to cheat the system. So because it is a valid ride and it's cheaper than a parking spot, it's an easy sell for us. That I don't get asked any questions of why it's so much, though. It does come up every time.
Yeah, I would just double tap on what Mandy said, though. We use data that is pulled into Ride Amigos to validate that somebody did a trip. So they have to connect with Strava or Scoop or Via, who does our shuttles, to for us to give them the points that then they, in our case, they earn points that then if they meet a certain threshold, they get a gift card. We turned it on for public transit. There's no way for me to confirm or validate that somebody's done this unless, in the future, we can compare it to our LPR records and confirm that they didn't drive in. So that's a future validation for us, but we want to encourage public transit. So we figured if there's some abuse there, it's minimal.
Yeah, and I can say for how we started the budget, that predates me in this role, but I do know for each year when we're going back for our next year or following year's budget, we do go in and look at by month how many people are earning the full amount of our commute incentive, which would be that $50. versus how many people are just getting the 5, the 10, however many in a month's time. And we use that to really kind of extrapolate how much we might need for the next year. We're also going to be using in Right Amigos going forward all of the data on our active users to see how many people are actually, they have a transit pass, they are actively tracking their commutes, and use that to kind of guess for the next year how much we should budget for this incentive.
Thanks. Anybody want to say a percentage of employees that you think are engaging in all of your programs across all of those different incentives or offerings that you're providing?
I don't think I have that number.
It's all in how you want to split up the data.
Right, right.
We look at the number of employees that are actively coming on site and our daily active users for each program, and we fluctuate between like 18 to 20%. But there's holes in that. We don't have daily active users for public transit participants because they just get it for the month. And then, are we including some of our other programs like the loaner bike program? That's not a daily active user. So I'd say comfortably 20%, probably a little bit higher. And it varies month over month.
Yeah, it kind of, the data split piece is kind of hard to talk about because we have, contractors that aren't eligible for the reimbursements and incentives, but they're doing it. We know they are. It's just they're not in that kind of record. But we have around like 42% of our workforce that use alternative modes to get into campus every day. Woohoo! But yeah, and then in terms of incentive and reimbursements, we're looking around 9 to 10% of people take advantage of the incentives and the reimbursements that we have to offer.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so I know we're almost out of time. I see a lot of really good questions in here, so it's hard for me to choose which one to take. But I guess the one question I see here is about on-demand services, routes, cost. You've talked a little bit about surveys. Anything anybody want to add about, like, how do you what are the cutouts? I'm not sure exactly what that's referring to, but are you only doing it where there are a lot of people in an area, or are you just spreading them all over the place? And how do you decide who to take care of?
I can start. So I think if you talk last year at the ACT conference, Mandy, me, and someone from Google were talking about our programs, and we all had a completely different approach. So this is just from our company's perspective, but we needed to reduce single occupancy vehicle trips to campus, and so we focused on 2 different services, and we mapped the service areas off of where our employees live. So the densest, closest to campus, those are on demand, like a Lyft or an Uber. And then farther away, we've created some pre-booked zones where they book the night before. So we're serving about 170 square miles, which is a large area and has its unique challenges. And then I think there was another question or comment in there about like how we could potentially be increasing greenhouse gas emissions. So that it also depends on like the service quality that you want to have and the things that you value as a company. So we're working with VIA, and we say shared rides are the most important for us. So our shared ride percentage is over 60%, and it's higher for pre-booked because those are scheduled the night before. So we want the algorithm to really prioritize getting people in a shared ride. And then we're also using hybrid minivans with a plan to transition over to electric vehicles when we can. So we're really focused on not increasing greenhouse gas emissions with the program. But that's kind of our approach.
There we go. And then mine's a little different since it is on campus transportation. So the max distance they're traveling is like 2 miles, maybe. And it is strictly like on demand. So very much like your Lyft and Uber type experience where I'm requesting a ride for now. And whenever a vehicle can get to me, it can get to me. We do have pre-planned all around our campus that some have cutaways, some don't. It's kind of a nice little puzzle when our buses are pulling up and there's a shuttle in the way. But yeah, we do have some cutouts for that, but it is strictly just on demand. I think I saw a question in there is how is it a barrier? Yes, most people do have cell phones, but you'd be surprised with how many people don't want to download an app on their phone. Sometimes it's just like, just do it. It's fine. I promise. But some people can't be convinced of it. So finding like alternative ways to make it for those people easier, but also for everyone, right? Like I wish I could just stand on a curb and have a vehicle pull up and I just hop on and tell it where to go. Sometimes technology is great, but sometimes you need to kind of go back and be like, what's the simplest process that we can put in for this? So
thanks. I see one. I'm just going to pick this one question because I think this is news everyone can use. How did you build capacity for your customer service and marketing staff, or train, manage, evaluate this kind of a commute concierge program that you guys are all offering? That came from someone at University of Maryland, from Aisha.
I can start off with this, and I can say it's difficult to really make sure that you have the capacity to spend the time and energy on the commute concierge. We've tried very hard to make sure that, for myself, I'm right now a one-person team handling the entire state of Washington. So I do my best to try to limit or try to budget about a couple hours a week to answering those emails that come in. We have a very public SLA on our email response that lets them know we've received your request. We are going to get to you. Please bear with us during this time. And that's something that me and my manager are actively working on. We work to collaborate with our corporate comms program as well for Kaiser Permanente as a whole, to really lean on them to kind of take over when we don't have the bandwidth to do it. They're always helpful and able to step in and send out some blast emails for us. But that's kind of where we are on just trying to budget the time and put the focus in when it really deserves it.
All right. I know we're 1 minute out. If anybody wants to add a quick additional thought to that one.
yeah, I was just going to say, echo that. It's customer service is so important, and then communications is so important. For us, our workforce is extremely vocal about how much they love hearing from us and how they love their proactive emails. So just because our audience demands it, it's nice for us to kind of sell like, this is what people want. This is what they like about the program. We're going to give them a nice customer delight and high response times. Or not high, low. My goodness, we want low response times.
Yeah, I would say it takes time. If you're starting out, focus on, like, there's a million things you're going to want to do. You can't do them all. So focus on what you think is going to be the most impactful. Is it a bike to work day? Is it a TDM week? Is it, new hire orientations first? And just build that year over year.
Thank you so much to all three of you. And thanks to Alex for doing a great job managing all those chats and Q&As. We really appreciate all of you joining today. And I do not worry, we did record this. So we will clean up the recording, make sure it looks, it's all nice, and we'll post it. We'll send out an email to everyone who signed up so they can check it out if they want to. And if we didn't get to your question, we will try to see if we can get those in follow-up later when everyone has time. So thanks again. Have a great rest of your week. And thanks again to this amazing panel. Ending the webinar. Bye-bye, everyone.